CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
And good morning and welcome to Public Affairs on Peach. I'm Gloria Neal, and this morning we are exploring the topic of dangerous drugs here in Georgia. The U.S. Surgeon General has reached out to all physicians to tackle the opioid health crisis. From moms to mechanics, people from all walks of life being affected, some even dying every day from opioid overdoses. And, well, people start with prescription pills and then graduate to heroin. In fact, deaths from overdose really have quadrupled. And now a drug 10,000 times stronger than morphine has reached Metro Atlanta. It is called carfentanil, and the drug is used as an elephant tranquilizer. And now the GBI says it's being passed off on the streets as heroin. Our Kim Passoff takes a closer look at the dangers of the drug.
So the toxicity levels are so high that for the first time in the history of our lab, we're having to make extreme changes because of this particular drug.
CBS 46 went inside the GBI crime lab to learn about the changes effective immediately.
Any case that is suspected to be heroin, we're having to change lab protocols.
For their own safety, all scientists testing drugs must now wear face masks, work in pairs, and work under this controlled environment.
They have to be tested under a hood, which is not routine. Scientists also cannot test it by themselves.
The GBI has this warning for everyone. Just breathing in the drug or getting it on your skin can prove deadly.
There could be tons on the streets that we don't know about.
In just the past few days, there have been 3 cases of carfentanil confirmed by the GBI. The drugs coming from the streets of Metro Atlanta.
Because I'm here and I'm alive and I shouldn't be.
Longtime addict Kevin McCutcheon from Ohio took what he thought was heroin 3 weeks ago and nearly died. Investigators in the Cincinnati area say carfentanil is responsible for at least 174 overdoses in 6 days.
It's gonna kill you.
The DEA says it is all too easy to get the drug.
We were able to go on the internet and get a quote for 100 grams of carfentanil, and that was $400.
2 grams is enough to take down a 2,000-pound elephant. So far, there have been no deadly carfentanil overdoses in Georgia, but the GBI believes it is only a matter of time.
There's no time to get addicted. The only option is deadly overdoses.
Well, I tell you, here's some more information on carfentanil. It can significantly slow down your breathing. Grains of it can be absorbed through the skin or even inhaled. According to the DEA, most fentanyls, like drugs in the United States, are actually manufactured in China and transported through Mexico. And right now, the University of Florida's Forensic Toxicology Lab is developing a new test to identify the drug. Well, joining me now is Deneen Gilcrease, the Forensic Chemistry Manager of the GBI. I want to welcome you to Public Affairs on Peach. Boy, I tell you, I'm sure your job is not easy.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. And no, it is not an easy job, but we're doing the very best that we can chemically to make sure that we keep everyone safe.
Yeah, so talk about this carfentanil and why are we hearing about this so much now, and how bad a problem is this in Metro Atlanta right now?
Well, right now we do have 3 cases at the GBI that are carfentanil, and so that means if we're seeing it at the GBI crime lab, it is on the streets of Atlanta right now. And an amount that is so small, a flake, literally a flake, that is inhaled or touched can be fatal to a human being.
A flake? A
flake. A half of a grain of sand is the amount that it takes to be fatal. And so an amount, 2 milligrams, isn't enough to take out a 2,000-pound elephant. Wow. So I have weighed out 2 milligrams. This is detergent, right, in a vial, detergent, so it's not going to hurt any of us in the studio today.
Correct.
You can barely see 2 milligrams in this little vial.
I was going to say you can barely see, you can't even see that in this vial.
And that is enough to hurt 2,000 people. So we have taken extra safety measures for our staff to make sure that they're safe. We have asked them to wear particle masks such as these, in addition to their normal safety protocol, which would be goggles and lab coats and gloves, cover their feet, cover the hands, and make sure their face is now protected. And in addition, this particle mask is now required. We also ask that they don't sample any solid material cases by themselves, or if they have to, that they work with a buddy system so that somebody is checking in on them, so if they go into distress, that we're aware of it. And we even, once we identify these really potent opioids,
Right.
we're now putting stickers on the evidence to mark it so that it's not opened up in court when the case is tried at a later date,
Wow.
therefore exposing everyone in the courtroom to it.
How did we find out this was even, you know, I mean, so many people are saying, how could this be? You think about, most people are looking at this probably with their mouths open saying, how did we even get here?
You know, and I've been at the crime lab for almost 20 years, and I can tell you one of the trends that I've watched during this time is an increase and an increase and an increase in opiates. And right now we test almost as many opiates as a category as we do cocaine.
Wow.
So methamphetamine is still our #1 drug, followed by cocaine, and #3 is the opiates all combined. And statistically, most of our numbers do come from the metro Atlanta area.
Sure.
But there are a few other areas in the state, such as Savannah, Columbus, Augusta, and Macon, that have elevated levels of opiates as well.
Right.
And so, you know, it's one of the most disturbing trends that I've observed since I've been here. It almost seems like we have an insatiable thirst for stronger and stronger opioids.
And I was going to ask you, is it because we're graduating, looking for that next higher to go higher and higher? And how expensive is this?
I don't know how expensive it is on the street. I know it looks like heroin. It's probably being sold at about the same price as heroin.
Wow. That is extremely, extremely scary. One last thing, we've also done stories on designer drugs like this in Georgia. Tell us what they are and how people really are getting around this when you start talking about that, drugs like this.
So the designer drugs are really made to mimic the effects of something that is illegal. So for example, if a person wanted to have the same high they would experience with cocaine, they make a drug that skirts the law and that is slightly modified chemically, and it produces that same high. And so it mimics the effects of it. And what I can tell you is in the state of Georgia, we do have very aggressive laws. And so most of the designer drugs at this point are going to be controlled.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Deneen.
Oh, thank you for having me today.
Very, very scary. You are very, very welcome. But also being very informed, that's all part of it. Deneen Gilchrist, Forensics Chemistry with the GBI. She is the manager there. Thank you so much. And sharing the expertise with us. When we come back, I'll speak to the Drug Enforcement Administrator about what effects gangs have on drugs in this area and drug trafficking. Stay with us.